Okay, so this is VCS Basic Training Class 8, just basic user training, where I'm going to show you, scheduling for basic users. Now, like I said before, as far as users are concerned, for the most part, they're only going to need the web portal. They will not, require access to the desktop application like supervisors or admins. Users, we can keep them strictly on the web portal. Now, this web portal, it's available 24/7 online. It works on any browser. You can access it through any device in which you have internet access, whether it's a computer, laptop, phone, tablet, what have you. If you can get on the internet, you can get to this web portal. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So I'm going to log in. Now I'm logging in with a user security level. So for the most part, what you see on my screen is what most of your users will be seeing. As far as if you've seen a supervisor's security profile or an administrator security profile, you might have a lot more options and screens available, but for users, it's very simple. As far as what we will be covering today, the first thing I'm going to do is take you through our schedule views. We do offer several, including daily, weekly, and monthly schedules, as well as a monthly and yearly personal calendar just for that employee. And then I'm going to take you through the employee functions, such as requesting time off, requesting overtime, requesting a schedule switch. And as far as basic user training, that's really all they need to do for now. Your department might be utilizing open shifts or extra duty signups. That isn't covered in basic user training. This is the bare bones, what almost all users need to know how to do. And then after that, I'll show you how users can change some of their settings, such as changing their password or setting their home page. And we do offer a report that the employees can use, and they can run the report just for themselves. That kind of keeps track, of bank balances and time off and overtime activity, things like that, work trends. So that's just a rough overview of what we will be discussing today. So now I'm logged in, and the first thing we're going to take a look at are our various schedule views. So if I click on View Schedule, I get the View Schedule side menu right here, kind of similar to the desktop application. And then from there, I can select what schedule I want to view. So we'll just take it from top to bottom. First things first, daily schedule. Now this daily schedule, depending on how you have your web dashboard set up, we can show up to 6 shifts per page. Each shift is its own tile. As far as navigating the dates, there's 2 ways to do it. One, we have this calendar drop down right here. So if I click on this calendar button, I can select any day as long as the schedule is built for that day, and it will just show me who's working what shift on that particular day. Now we also have these kind of quick link buttons. So if I want to go back to today's date, I can click on the Today button, and it will bring me back to today's daily schedule. And now we have these 2 interior arrows right here. So the left interior arrow is just to go back a day. The right interior arrow is to go forward a day. And then these 2 exterior arrows are to go back a week or go forward a week in terms of date. So you have those 2 ways to navigate the dates next to those buttons. we select the web dashboard that we want to view. So, some people, you might only have one web dashboard, in which case that's what it's defaulted to. However, if you have multiple web dashboards, depending on what you've assigned your users in their security profile, they can select different, web dashboards. Now, we also have this validate button. So if we want to see, if the user wants to see how we're doing validation-wise, if they click validate, the screen refreshes itself. And if at any time we have a staffing shortage, the shift where the staffing shortage takes place will change colors. So unlike the desktop application where it validates automatically, this you need to press the button to actually validate it. And now, with the web dashboard, you might have multiple pages. If you have more than 6 shifts, those shifts are going to be spread across a couple of pages. So these buttons right here on the right side is how we navigate those pages. So if I click this next page button, it's going to bring me to the next, page of shifts that I have set up in my web dashboard. I click home, just going to bring me back to the first page. So now actually getting into what the daily schedule on the web portal shows. So we have these columns right here. So obviously we see everyone, every shift and who's working those shifts in these tiles. We see their title, the name. Now, if you were to ever see times next to their name, that just means that those times are that person's work times for today. So if, for instance, if we saw hours next to Sergeant Klutz here, that just means that those hours are different than the default shift hours. So if you have an early person or a late person, you might see times next to their name. Those are just their work hours. Now, on the daily schedule, we also have a column for jobs. So if anyone has been assigned to a particular job, that code will show up next to their name to the left. And then on the right, we have a column for details. So if anyone gets assigned to a scheduled detail, whether it's a car or a piece of equipment, that information will also show on the daily schedule. And the daily schedule is also going to show you any time off entries or overtime entries. And when we actually put those in, we'll take a look and we can actually see how it looks on the daily schedule. But as far as that goes, I mean, there's not much more to it. It's pretty straightforward. So we're going to move right along to the next item on the list, the monthly calendar. Now, you'll notice we have a monthly schedule and a monthly calendar. The difference is a calendar is your personal calendar. You can only pull up your information. A monthly schedule shows everyone's schedule for the month. So the difference between calendar and schedule, calendar is just yours, schedule shows everyone. So let's click on the monthly calendar button. So now here's our monthly calendar. As far as navigating the dates, we could either use the month drop down right here and just select the month, or we have these buttons. We can go back a month, go forward a month, or jump to the current month. Now, what we have here is just a basic calendar view, and as you can see, it's showing us what shift we are scheduled to work as far as the days of the month. And it also shows any overtime or time off entries for that month in here as well. So we have this kind of these color codings down here. So anytime we see something in blue, that means that is a requested time off entry. If we see a time off entry in yellow, it means that it has been approved with stipulation. If it's in green, like right here, it is an approved time off entry. And then anything in red has been denied. Now you'll also notice we have these buttons right here to jump right into the request overtime screen or request day off screen. So if we're on our monthly calendar and, I see I want to take off on the 30th, I can go ahead and do so by jumping right to that screen. Moving along, we have our monthly schedule. And like I said, the schedule is going to show everyone. And now the monthly schedule is group-based in that we're not going to show everyone in the system all at once. We have to select what group we want to do. So I'm in the admin group right now. If I select, say, Squad B, these are all the people who belong to Squad B, and these are their schedules. So these codes right here are just shift abbreviations. Everything we see in this schedule are just abbreviations. So here we have an approved time off entry right there, and that's the time off code abbreviation. As far as navigating the dates, whatever day we select, it's just going to bring up that entire month. So if I want to see, the people in the admin's schedule for July, I can just go to July and select any day I want. It's not going to matter. And there we are. That's all that the monthly schedule, does. Once again, very simple. Now, single shift is pretty much identical to the daily schedule, except you actually you can only show one shift at a time. But as far as what it shows, it's all the same stuff as the daily schedule. We can also validate from the single shift schedule. As far as navigating the dates, it handles the same way as the daily schedule. You can use the calendar drop-down. You can use the quick link buttons. But, we've seen all this information before. Now let's go to the weekly schedule. Now, the weekly schedule is similar to the monthly schedule in that, once again, it is group-based. So now it's just showing me everyone in Squad C schedule for the week. And the week just pretty much, whatever the current day is, it shows that week that the day falls in. So if I wanted to see next week, I could just select any day next week, and it'll bring up that whole week. And now here are the shifts that everyone's working. Once again, also shows time off or overtime entries. And that's pretty much it as far as the weekly schedule goes. Now, the last schedule view we have is a yearly calendar, similar to the monthly calendar. In fact, it's the monthly calendar, times 12. So here we have every month of the year, as well as what we're working, any time off or overtime entries, and it utilizes the same color code as the monthly calendar. So I can see, if I'm a basic, Monday through Friday guy, yearly calendar won't really do much, but if I'm on, say I'm on a rotation where, I don't necessarily know exactly what day I'm working come, November, I can pull up the yearly calendar and see that information right here. Now, once again, we also, because it's a calendar, we gave you the buttons to jump right to overtime or a day off request through this calendar view. And that's pretty much it. So let me open up the mics. Does anyone have any questions regarding the schedule views that we offer on the web portal?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, we can just move right along. Like I said before, it's very easy, very straightforward. So next we'll get into some employee functions. Now, as far as everything an employee can do, if we click on employee, this list right here is everything they're going to need, and that's it. They don't need anything else. You'll notice, we still have some menu options up here. Those are just kind of built into the system. However, like timesheets and payroll, if we click on it, I can't do anything with those items because I don't have access to them. Same goes for supervisors. Schedule overtime and schedule time off. they bring us to the same screen as request time off, or I'm sorry, schedule time off and request overtime payment. So just because these items are listed in the supervisor menu doesn't mean we treat those screens any differently than we would through the employee menu. The security privileges still apply to both supervisor and employee, schedule time off screens. So anything that they're not allowed to do, as a user, they cannot do anything outside of those privileges that you set in your security profile, regardless of the screen. So first, let's take a look at requesting time off. Now, say, I'm a user. I see, let's say June. Okay, so we're going to take off today, the 10th, right here. So if I click on employee, I click on schedule time off, it's going to bring us to the schedule time off screen. And we're going to go ahead and put one in, but before we do that, I do want to show you we do have these 3 buttons right here. So if it's a brand new entry, we can just click add a new entry and it wipes out, the screen and all the fields. If I want to see my current bank balances, I can click show balances. And now this is just showing me all my banks, how many hours I've been given in each of those banks, how many hours I've used, and then my current available balance. So this works, very similarly to a checking account with a debit card, where you might spend money and it gets reflected in your available balance, but maybe that money hasn't been pulled yet, until 2 days from now, 3 days from now. So that balance may not necessarily be what is exactly in your bank at this time, but it just shows you how much time you have left to spend so you don't go over your limit. And the last button we have, show time off. This is just showing us, time off activity that we've taken. So here we see whether or not it's been approved or denied. We see the date, the shift, the reason for the time off, the hours, any comments. All right, so now let's go ahead and add a new entry. Notice I can only select my own name. That's because I have user security. Next, we have to put in a from date and to date. If you're only taking the day off, your from and to date would be the same. You could take a range, or you could take consecutive days off. Maybe if I'm Monday through Friday, I can take off Monday through Wednesday just by making the from date Monday and the to date Wednesday. However, if there is a break in between your days, so maybe you're scheduled to work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You're off Wednesday. You can't put in, I want to take off Monday through Friday. You'd have to do 2 separate entries, one for Monday and Tuesday, and then one for Thursday and Friday. So if there's a break in your date range, it separates the entries. So just keep that in mind. And then after that, we select the shift. Now what the system does is when you put these dates in, it kind of checks to see what shifts you were scheduled to work. So I'm only scheduled to work 1 shift, but however, maybe if I rotate between shifts each day, I could just select all shifts, and that puts me off on any shift I was scheduled to work in this date range. After that, we need to select the part of day. So it defaults to entire day. So if you're taking off the whole shift, you would leave it to an entire day. But now if we select the first or second half of our shift as taking off, you'll notice now we need to manually put in times. If we leave it to entire day, those times go away. That just means that whatever we're taking off from the default start and the default end times of that shift. If I'm only taking a partial day, though, say I'm coming in late, I can use first. I can put in my time, so if my shift starts at 7, but I'm coming in late, my time off's going to start at 7, and say I'm coming in 2 hours late. My time off would end at 9, meaning I'm coming back to work at 9. And then number of hours, if we just click in that field, it automatically updates based on whatever times we put in here. So it does the math for us. We need to select the reason. So now when we open this menu up, it just shows up the time off reasons available. Now you'll notice, we don't see things like sick in here. This goes back to how you set it up in a time off that particular time off code. If you're a department where if you're sick, you need to call up a supervisor to let them know you're calling out sick, you would still need to do just that, call up a supervisor, and then they would put you out on sick. So if there's any time off that you want to use that isn't in this list, that just means that a supervisor or above has to do it for you. We'll say vacation. I'll take the entire day off. So I'm going to take today off entirely using vacation. And then after that, we need to select the status. So it might be a little hard to see on your screen, but we have a request status, an approve with STIP, and deny. As a user, I cannot select approve with STIP, or deny. I can only request it. Obviously, I cannot approve my own time off. I can only submit it as a request. And then after that, we have a section. While it's not mandatory to be filled out, hence why it's the only field not in red. If we do want to add any particular comments or information as to why we're requesting off, we can put that in there. In which case, a supervisor would see those comments when they pull up the entry, whether to approve it or not. So if it's something like I don't know, say doctor's appointment, I could put that in there. I want to leave this checkbox on, send email to default. That's just going to send an email notification to my, supervisor, as well as myself, just kind of the system telling me, hey, your request went through. And this happens automatically. And any time that your time off or overtime requests get approved or denied, the system also automatically sends an email notification to the person who requested that entry. So now that all this is filled out, we can go ahead and click Save. Now I'm just getting this warning because I haven't updated my time banks, so I'm just going to click Continue. Now you'll see your request has been saved. I click OK. So I've successfully put in for time off. So now let's go see what that looks like on the daily schedule. And there it is. It's in blue because it's been requested. We see vacation with a question mark, just, once again, showing us what type of time off it is, and that question mark just denotes that it is only a request. It has not been approved or denied yet. So let me just open up the mics before we move on. Any questions about putting in for time off?
I don't have any.
All right, so now let's move on to requesting overtime. The nice thing about requesting overtime, it's very, very similar to how we would schedule time off, as far as the fields go and whatnot. So let's go back to the employee menu. Now we're going to select Request Overtime Payment. Now, you'll notice this looks pretty similar to the Request Time Off screen. So, once again, if it's a new entry, we can click New. If I click Show Overtime, it's going to show me my overtime activity, whether or not, my entries have been approved or denied, when it was for, the shift, the reason, the payment type, the times, and any additional comments. So let's go ahead and put in a new entry. We can do it for today. So once again, I can only select my name from the employee field because I'm just a user. I put in the date that I worked the overtime. Next, I select the shift that I worked overtime for. So I could say office clerical. Next, I select the reason. Now here are our overtime reasons. So I'll select clerical work. Then once I do that, the pay types, I have to select the pay type. And depending on the overtime reason we use, the pay types can vary. So as you can see, if I choose clerical work, now I can only choose straight time cash or comp. If I were to select staffing, I can only choose time and a half cash or comp. And then after this, we need to manually put in the hours of our overtime. This does not include our regular hours. This is only hours outside of our regular, work hours. So I can say the overtime started at 1700. Maybe it was only an hour of overtime. So I can say 1800, so it's 1 hour. And then after that, once again, I can only submit it as a request. I cannot approve or approve a stip or, deny my own entry. And then in comments, this is where I could put in some more information regarding what I actually did for that overtime. So I could say something like, report number 125. Once again, I want to leave this checkbox on so I can notify my group supervisor about my overtime entry. I click Save. Your request has been saved. So now let's take that was for the 10th, so now let's go back to the daily schedule, take a look. And there's my overtime because I put it for office clerical. So even though I'm still, technically I'm still on the admin shift as time off, but my additional hours right here are causing me to show up twice. So here we see the reason, staff, which was my overtime reason, and then the hours of that overtime, and a question mark denoting that it hasn't been approved yet. Now, how overtime works is if we select comp time as a payment, the second it gets approved, those comp hours automatically go into my bank. And that happens, once again, as soon as it's approved. So let me open up the mics. Any questions about requesting overtime?
I don't have any questions.
All right, good. So next, I'll show you how to put in or request a schedule switch. Now with these schedule switches, just because we put in for a switch doesn't mean we're going to get it. It still needs to be approved by a supervisor. And the system we have rules in place that dictate, who we're allowed to switch with. So if I'm a dispatcher, I couldn't switch with someone who works patrol because, I don't have the patrol skill set, so the system will automatically kind of, it'll stop people from putting in switches that just can't happen. If we're both working on the same time, or say if we're even working the same shift, the system won't let us switch. We can only, so actually before I get ahead of myself, let's go to that screen. We'll click on Employee, and then we're going to click on Request Switch. So now it's going to take us to this screen. You'll notice there are two separate sections. We see Employee Requesting Switch, and then Employee Being Substituted. So there's two different things we can do here. A switch is, swapping schedules where both parties know the shift and the times that we are switching with each other. Meaning, if I switch for Officer Smith, I know I'm going to work for him on, next Tuesday, and he's going to come in for me today. So it's like a closed-ended switch where both parties know the dates that are being exchanged. A substitution is an open-ended switch, meaning, maybe someone's going to come in for me today, and I'm going to make it up to them at a later date, but I don't know the exact date yet. So depending on how your department operates, if your department allows open-ended switches, you can use substitutions. If you do not, and you need to know when that person is making up the switch, you can just use a regular switch. But we'll go through how to do both of them. So with this screen, employee requesting switch, this is just going to be our name. We put in the date and the shift. Actually, once we put in the date, we want to click Update, and that'll show the shift that we're working on that day. So if we select the date and nothing shows up here, that just means that we weren't scheduled to work that day. With switching with, we put in the person who is going to come in to work for us on this shift on that day. And then under their date and shift, this is when, I'm going to work for them on this particular shift. So the easiest way to look at it is like an X, meaning this person is working on this shift on this date, and this person is working on this shift and that date. So it's a swap like that. When you're done, you hit Request. If the system sees like a conflict, meaning like you can't, the switch shouldn't be allowed, it will let you know and the switch will not go through. If, however, the switch is, fine, and you guys are capable of working each other's shifts, it will go through and let you know that it has been processed. And that's all you have to do for requesting a switch. For requesting a substitute, little similar. So this is the person who's requesting the substitution, and this is the person who's coming in for them on this date and this shift. Once again, you select a day. So if I select like the 18th and I click Update, there's no shift available because I'm not working on the 18th. However, I select the 29th. I'm only working the administrative shift, so that's the only shift that shows up. And like I said, here's the person that's coming in to work for us on this day with this shift. And here is where we put in the times that they're coming in for us. So with the substitution, if maybe I have someone coming in for me for the last 4 hours of my shift, I could put in the times that they're actually going to come in for me right here. And the system will know if I work an 8-hour shift, I'm working the first 4, this person is working the last 4, as long as those start and end times are correct. Don't worry about the time bank optional. That just means, for those 4 hours that someone's coming in for us for, we can use vacation or personal or comp time. So it's almost like taking a partial day off when we do it through this way. When you're done, you submit requests. Once again, if the system sees no conflicts, it will let the request go through. If it does see a conflict, it'll let you know why the request didn't go through. If it goes through successfully, it'll just say request saved, and then your supervisor, it's up to your supervisor then to approve it. Once it gets approved, your names will switch on the schedule, and it will show you those switches. It'll say your name in parentheses for this person. Any questions regarding putting in a switch or a substitution?
I don't have anything.
All right. So now I'm just going to show you some other employee functions. There's only 2 of them, and they're pretty easy. One is going to be how to change our password. For new users, the system defaults to a setting that kind of the system kind of makes you change your password upon first login. Everyone's password right now is their first initial and then the first 8 letters of their last name. That's just to get in for the first time. once they're in, the system's going to bring them to the change password screen. So you have to change your password and it can be whatever you want. And these passwords don't expire, but if for some reason, you want to change your password again, users do have that option to go back and change their password to whatever they want. So I'm going to click on Employee. See right here, Change Password. And this is all we have to do. This is going to be our username. We pop in our current password, and then we put in whatever we want our new password to be twice, one for new password and then confirm new password, and then we have to click Submit. That's all we got to do. So as far as changing a password, we're just filling out 3 fields, and then that's that. We do offer the employee the ability to update their personnel information, address, contact information, emergency contact information down here. The user can pop in all of that right here. So if they have a new emergency contact, or maybe they moved or something like that, they can put in their new address in this field. When they're done, they click Save, and that saves all the information. The last other setting, employee settings, I should say, that we offer, just the ability to choose a home page. So this home page is just what loads up right here when we log in. So right now, it is set to my employee statistical report, but maybe I want to set it to the daily schedule. I click Save. It says Save Successful. So now when I click Home, so now let's say I'm logging in. This is our home page. It's the first screen that loads up, pretty much. So those are our employee settings. The only thing I have left to show you is one report, the employee statistical report. The nice thing about this report is it's kind of like 5 or 6 reports all rolled together. So if we click on reports, this is the only report we have available as a user. So I click on that. Now you'll notice I can only select my name. Once again, user security. It's defaulted to the current year, so all this information is based on the current year's, schedule and entries, things like that. So now the first section we have is just time balances. We've seen this before on the Show Balances screen when we request time off. But this is just an area where we have all of those pieces of information in one generic location. So once again, the bank, what the banks are, how many hours we've been given, how many hours we've used, our available balance in hours, or whatever units we've selected. Below that, time off activity. We've seen this before as well. The type of time off we've taken. So here's that one we just put in for today. It's only been requested. Right there. Keep scrolling down. Now it's overtime activity. It shows us all overtime entries that we put in, and here's our request right there from today. Now this section right here we haven't seen before, the administrative days log. So if you remember, I was telling you, when you work overtime and you get paid in comp time, when it gets approved, it goes into your bank. Well, the administrative days log shows whenever hours or days have been added into your bank. So it's just a report that shows you when time has entered your bank. So we can see right here, we have some entries. These are all from overtime entries. So I got, 14 I got 14.25 hours from an overtime entry going into my comp bank. And then I have 2 entries of 1.5 hours going into my comp bank. So, when your system admins or whoever's responsible for putting time into your bank actually do, whether it is, your annual accrual or if it's an adjustment or anything like that, you will see all that right here.
And now below that, we also have a work trend section. For users, this just shows you, your work patterns. We see as far as days of the week, how many days we've worked, how many days we've taken off, what days we've worked overtime. So just at a glance, I've worked 52 Mondays. I've worked overtime on one Sunday. I've taken off Thursday twice. And then we just total it up. So total days worked, total days taken off, total days worked overtime, and then total hours worked, total hours taken off, and total hours worked overtime. As far as, what it means to a user, it is what it is. But supervisors do have access to this too. So this is a nice tool for supervisors to keep track of everyone's work patterns. Don't worry about any of the other stuff down below. As far as basic user training, this has nothing to do with them. And so that's the only report your users will pretty much need. So that concludes our basic user training. The mics are open. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything we went over today?
No, seemed pretty straightforward.
It's very easy to use. You use it once or twice. You'll be a master at it, essentially. It's very straightforward. And once you get the hang of it, as far as like putting time off in and putting overtime in, you could put it in literally seconds. That's how easy it is to use. It's just filling out some fields and then you're done. But yeah, like I said, that was all I had for you today. If no one has any other questions, I'll end the recording. We can end the meeting. Just keep an eye out for an email from GoToTraining, just sending you the link to the video. Those links will be available for the next 7 days. So if you ever need to refer back to this video for anything you may have forgotten or whatever, you can do that.
I appreciate it.